And Oscar goes to Ron Howard.
I love all kinds of movies, all kinds of stories, really, and I always have, and that's taken me on some fantastic.
Hollywood has been rocked by a startling revelation. Paige Carrile Howard, daughter of renowned filmmaker Ron Howard and author Cheryl Howard, disclosed that her parents nearly separated several times after being together for more than 50 years. At the age of 18, they fell in love at John Burroughs High School, a tale that once inspired admiration for them throughout Hollywood. However, Paige made the shocking decision to tell the truth. Everyone believes that my parents are living in a fantasy world. However, the truth is that they came close to divorcing at least 3 times. The narrative began when Ron and Cheryl were exchanging love letters and lofty aspirations in the idyllic 1960s. But as Ron gained notoriety in Hollywood, and Cheryl found it difficult to stay true to herself, cracks started to show. Paige recalled, "I saw my mom throw her suitcase out the door, yelling, 'I can't live like this anymore.'" They were on the verge of disintegrating due to conflicts between Ron's envy and Cheryl's want for independence, which made Paige and her siblings shudder in fear that their family would disappear. What lies beneath their Hollywood glitz and glowing smiles? The world was horrified by what Paige just disclosed. Watch the entire video. With a more than 50-year career, Ron Howard is one of Hollywood's most well-known directors and actors. He became well-known to American viewers as Richie Cunningham in Happy Days and as Opie Taylor in the seminal TV series The Andy Griffith Show. In addition to his acting career, Ron is a gifted director who has helmed successful films including Apollo 13 and The Da Vinci Code, as well as A Beautiful Mind, for which he won an Oscar for Best Director. He is renowned for his exquisite storytelling, which blends character nuance and emotion to create a lasting impression on the film industry. But what's most amazing about Ron is that he has been in love with his partner Cheryl for 50 years. A common misconception is that this marriage is a Hollywood fantasy, complete with romance, picture-perfect moments, and tender embraces on the red carpet. However, the layers of emotion and difficulties behind the scenes are never visible from the outside. Ron and Cheryl Howard's 4 children, including 40-year-old Paige Carrile Howard, felt uncomfortable when fans idolized this love tale too much and felt obliged to speak up anytime her parents' romance was brought up. The truth isn't so simple. "Everyone looks at my parents and sees a perfect couple," Paige would add with a curious-sounding smile and bright eyes. However, our family life is not at all what you may think. Let's examine Paige's story to learn the most sinister details of this ostensibly intense bond. 2 11th graders at John Burroughs High School unintentionally started a romance that would span more than 50 years amid the beautiful sunshine of Burbank, California in 1968. The red-haired child who played Opie on The Andy Griffith Show, Ron Howard, met Cheryl Alley, a bright girl who loved to read and write. According to my dad, he recognized Cheryl's uniqueness immediately. One of their 4 children, Paige Carrile Howard, smiled as she shared. He claimed that his heart raced just by gazing at his mother. Cheryl was intrigued by this budding talent because she thought Ron was sincere but a touch awkward. They went on their first date in 1970, just like any other adolescent couple. It's a Mad World is a comedy movie that Ron took Cheryl to see. After that, they went to a little eatery to have pizza. Dad claimed that when he held Mom's hand, his hands were trembling. Paige laughed. Mom thought it was cute, but he was afraid she would think he was a kid. From that point on, they developed into a couple that wrote each other handwritten letters filled with optimistic outlooks on the future. Cheryl wanted to be a writer, while Ron wanted to be a director. "Those handmade letters are still treasured in their home," Paige said. Marriage was not an easy journey. Before Cheryl accepted, Ron asked her to marry him 3 times. Cheryl first declined, preferring to concentrate on her studies in psychology and screenwriting in college. Paige recalled that Mom was quite resolute. She told her father that she needed time to mature. After Ron waited patiently, they were married in a modest ceremony on June 7, 1975. There, Henry Winkler was making fun of my dad as though he were about to pass out from joy. Paige recalled that when Cheryl was just 21, they embarked on a journey that was both difficult and brimming with love. As Ron made the move from actor to director, Cheryl became a pillar of support. Cheryl always maintained complete faith in Ron, even when he was confronted with Hollywood misgivings. She even made brief appearances in the majority of Ron's films, ranging from Splash to A Beautiful Mind. Mom was referred to as Dad's fortunate charm. "I'm superstitious, and every movie needs Mom to be in it, even for a short time," Paige stated proudly. Ron was able to concentrate on his work since Cheryl took care of the family, raising the 4 kids, Bryce, Paige, Jocelyn, and Reed. She never, however, abandoned her love of writing screenplays and novels. Their marriage was not always ideal, of course. Dad was crazy for Mom, but he was also crazy about jealousy. Paige described hearing a voice divulge a startling secret. Because his mother had joked with a male classmate, he once glanced through her diary. All Mom wanted was the freedom to pursue her passions. Following their wedding in 1975, they had a tense first few years of marriage. As Cheryl focused on her literary career, Ron's attempt to transition from actor to director grew increasingly domineering. My mom told me that her father once exclaimed, "You can't just go everywhere like that." Paige's eyes widened in astonishment when she expressed her desire to join a literary workshop. Free-spirited, Cheryl declined to bow. Paige and her siblings would often argue until midnight, leaving them huddled in their rooms, terrified and uncertain of their family's survival. Paige occasionally feared her parents might divorce. "I recall one time, possibly in the late 90s, my parents didn't talk for a whole week," she continued, voice wavering as if still haunted. Mom slammed the door and walked out, claiming she was suffocated in this marriage, while Dad grasped a stack of documents and yelled that she didn't respect him. Ron once drafted a lengthy letter asking for a divorce, but he tore it up right before the deadline. Despite her desire for independence, Cheryl was unable to leave the family. Paige replied, her eyes enigmatic. They loved each other, but that love was like a storm. Even as they grew older, Ron's jealousy persisted. Ron almost went crazy when Cheryl chose to travel to Pakistan and Afghanistan in 2010 to conduct research for her book, The Face of Jinn. Paige said, "Dad called it a crazy act. He looked through all of Mom's calls and even had someone follow her around from a distance." When she got back, Mom flung her phone against the wall because she was so furious and knew everything. The whole family fell hushed in fear as the tension increased, and Paige vividly recalls her mother shouting, "If you don't trust me, then what does this marriage even mean?" These were no trivial disagreements. Dad once banged the table when, without consulting him, Mom consented to an interview about her book. Paige described a disbelieving voice. Dad wanted to be in charge of everything, including Mom's wardrobe and social circle. Cheryl often resisted. She once left home for a few days, leaving a small message. "I need space to breathe." Paige and her siblings, still little, wailed and begged their mother to return, afraid the family may come apart forever. As Ron Howard dug deeper into Hollywood, things got even more difficult. From a young performer on The Andy Griffith Show to a well-known director who attracts the interest of numerous women, Paige remembered how many eyes were on the father. Whether they were big players in Ron's film ventures or supporting actresses on Happy Days, gorgeous young stars were quick to express their admiration. I once heard Mom mention a famous actress who kept sending Dad letters inviting him to dinner to discuss a script. With a sweet smile, Paige emphasized the final words. The Howard home was uneasy because of these circumstances. As a child, Paige recalls her mother finding a big flower that had been sent to Ron's office along with a heartfelt note from a rising celebrity. When Ron tried to explain that it was simply professional admiration, Mom lost it, threw the card in the trash, and yelled at Dad, "Who do you think I am, invisible?" Cheryl couldn't handle the sensation of being rejected and intimidated. Such incidents were not uncommon. At one backstage party, an actress publicly flirted with Ron in front of Cheryl. In my dad's reality, Mom informed me she felt insulted. I don't understand why Paige admitted in such a curious voice, but she said, "Paige Hollywood is a monster, and sometimes I fear it will devour our love." Yet strangely, amidst the storms, Ron and Cheryl always found a way back to each other. Even though she hadn't done anything wrong, Mom would occasionally write letters of apology to Dad. Once, out of unjustified envy, Dad bowed down and pleaded with Mom for forgiveness. Despite the tears, such reconciliation served as a binding agent. After a fight, Paige recalls watching her parents embrace in the kitchen as though nothing else existed. Ron and Cheryl's love is still as intense as it was more than half a century ago. In 2025, Ron shared a picture of Cheryl on social media, stating, "The most beautiful at 71, the love of my life," as they commemorated their 50th wedding anniversary. Reddit simply grinned and remarked, "Your dad is still cheesy like back in the day," in response to Paige's account of her mother. They continue to walk hand in hand while giggling over each other's ridiculous antics. The Howard family, which has 4 children and 5 grandchildren, is a living example of love that never dies. Page noted that patience and communication are their keys. Despite their tendency to argue, my parents always managed to work things out. While Cheryl was the first to read his scripts, Ron helped her publish books, and she added, "Dad said Mom helps him balance his emotions, and Mom said Dad encourages her to pursue her writing dreams." In addition to being lovers, they were close friends who overcame obstacles and shared passions. Observing my parents taught me that love is the daily decision to choose one another. Page reflected, "In the ever-changing world of Hollywood, where relationships easily crumble, Ron and Cheryl are the exception. They grew together from 2 dreaming teenagers to a couple with silver hair still exchanging loving glances. My parents don't just love each other. They are teammates rowing the boat of life through every storm." To understand how Ron Howard built a harmonious, happy marriage alongside his children and the sacrifices he made, let's go back to the beginning to see the full life story of this star. Ron Howard was born in March 1954 in Duncan, Oklahoma, with the full name Ronald William Howard. He was the first child of Rance and Jean Howard, who both devoted their lives to acting. His father was an actor, writer, and director, and his mother was an actress trained in New York. From an early age, Ron grew up in an artistic environment where storytelling and performance were part of everyday life. From a very young age, Ron displayed exceptional talent. He first appeared on stage at 18 months old and acted in his first film, Frontier Woman, at age 2. Under his parents' guidance, Ron was carefully prepared before stepping into the role of a famous child actor, with his breakthrough being the role of Opie Taylor in The Andy Griffith Show in 1960. This role lasted 8 seasons and made him a familiar name to audiences. Andy Griffith became an important mentor, guiding Ron not only in acting, but also in how to live and work professionally. This guidance, combined with a solid family foundation, helped Ron develop comprehensively both as an actor and as a budding filmmaker. Ron Howard was not only an actor, but also had a passion for filmmaking from a young age. Participating in programs like CBS's Playhouse 90, he was exposed to production techniques, directing, and project management, which helped shape his vision and unique style for his later directing career. Roles in The Music Man and The Father's Love further confirmed his deep acting abilities, combining emotion and natural humor. Howard's major breakthrough came in 1973 with the role of Steve Bolander in American Graffiti. At that time, he was still famous for playing Opie Taylor in The Andy Griffith Show, but his child star image had stuck for too long. Directed by George Lucas, American Graffiti told the story of a group of teenagers roaming the streets on the last night of summer 1962. Facing major life decisions and listening to iconic rock and roll hits, the role of Steve, a high school graduate torn between love and college, allowed Howard to prove his ability to handle adult roles. The film cost under $1 million but grossed over $140 million, received 5 Oscar nominations, and sparked a wave of nostalgia for the 1950s and 1960s. The success of American Graffiti paved the way for Howard to join Happy Days in 1974, created by Gary Marshall. He played Richie Cunningham, the wholesome, relatable boy next door. The show started slowly, but when it switched to a multi-camera format with a live audience, it became a massive success, ranking number 1 on television in its 3rd season. Howard was at the center sharing stories about teens, friendship, and family, and the program aired for 11 seasons. However, behind the scenes of Happy Days was not always smooth. Initially, Howard was the shining star, but when Henry Winkler's character Arthur Fonzarelli became a phenomenon, Howard felt sidelined. Fonza, with his leather jacket and confident style, quickly won audience favor. ABC considered renaming the show Happy Days of Fonzie, disappointing Howard as his leading role was now overshadowed. He demanded the original name remain, and ABC agreed. But Fonza remained the focus of attention. Nevertheless, Howard and Winkler remained close friends. This story reflects a reality. Career and fame are never fully under one's control, but talent, perseverance, and strong relationships can help overcome setbacks. Experiences from playing Opie Taylor in classic films and Happy Days shaped Ron Howard, making him both an actor and an accomplished director in Hollywood history. The situation was very difficult for Ron Howard at the time. He admitted that although he was never jealous of Henry Winkler, the feeling that Happy Days was no longer his show created pressure. Winkler's rising fame made backstage dynamics tense, and Howard noticed executives treating him differently. He was no longer their top priority, The media began speculating that he was becoming a second-tier citizen in his own show. Instead of letting this affect him, Howard turned the challenge into motivation. He focused more on directing work, determined to prove he could do more than act. When leaving Happy Days in 1980, Howard did not depart as a frustrated actor, but with a clear goal and the skills to make his directing dreams a reality. His passion for directing began early in high school in Burbank, California, with a Super 8 camera. He started making short films, entering competitions, and winning second place in a Kodak contest. By graduating high school in 1972, Howard already knew what he wanted. The Super 8 films provided a solid foundation, helping him learn framing and visual storytelling. After graduation, he enrolled in the University of Southern California's USC School of Cinematic Arts, which offered modern equipment and close industry connections. Howard was part of the first freshman class in film studies. However, shortly after starting at USC, he was cast as Richie Cunningham in Happy Days, a show that became a phenomenon. Balancing acting and studies became impossible, and Howard had to make a choice. He left USC before completing his degree but continued learning. Every acting job became an opportunity to study filmmaking, observe directors, ask questions, and learn how a set operates. Years later, Howard returned to USC as a guest lecturer, sharing his experiences with aspiring filmmakers. Howard's first major breakthrough as a director came in 1977 in an unusual way. Producer Roger Corman agreed that if Howard starred in Eat My Dust, I would be allowed to direct his own film. Although not enthusiastic about the script, Howard accepted the role, seeing a greater opportunity. Together with his father, Ron wrote the script for Grand Theft Auto in just 2 weeks. The low-budget film $62,000 was shot in only 23 days of fast-paced action comedy featuring car chases and eccentric characters. Critics were divided, but audiences loved it. The film grossed $15 million, a significant success considering the director was a newcomer and the budget was low. This was an important starting point, marking Howard not only as a famous actor but also as a talented director, opening the path to pursue his filmmaking passion in the following years. Grand Theft Auto was a crucial turning point in Ron Howard's career. He had to manage a tight schedule, limited resources, and the pressure to deliver an entertaining film. It was also the only time Howard directed himself in a feature film. And more importantly, the success proved he could do more than act. Hollywood began recognizing him as a serious filmmaker. Howard's directing career officially took off in 1982 with Night Shift, a comedy that demonstrated he was more than an actor. Previously known primarily for Richie Cunningham and Happy Days, Howard wanted to explore something beyond the spotlight. Although he had directed a few smaller projects, Night Shift was his first real challenge. The film starred Henry Winkler, Shelley Long, and Michael Keaton in his first lead role, telling the story of a timid bank employee who becomes involved in an after-hours prostitution ring. A strange concept that Howard balanced with over-the-top comedy and authentic moments. Achieving success, the film became an unexpected hit, earning over $21 million at the box office on a modest budget. Critics praised Howard's directing ability and Michael Keaton's energetic performance, which later won the Kansas City Film Critics Award for Best Supporting Actor. Today, Night Shift maintains a 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with many considering it one of the sharpest comedies of the early 1980s. Janet Maslin of the New York Times noted a loss of energy in the latter half, but its impact was undeniable. The film also strengthened Howard's working relationship with Henry Winkler. They had been close during Happy Days, but Night Shift was a different experience. Winkler proved he could do more than a familiar comedic role, and Howard showed he could confidently handle a full-length feature film, with some comparing Night Shift to breakthrough comedies of the time. The film also established Howard's directing style, balancing humor, emotion, and finely tuned storytelling rhythm. Howard did not stop there, acting quickly in 1984 to direct Splash, a romantic fantasy comedy starring Tom Hanks as a man who falls in love with a mermaid played by Daryl Hannah. The unique idea combined humor and emotion with John Candy and Eugene Levy, adding comedic elements and the chemistry between Hanks and Hannah, making the story believable. The film was a turning point for both Howard and Hanks, launching Hanks as a star and being the first release under Disney's new Touchstone Pictures label. With a budget of about $1 million, Splash earned nearly $70 million in the U.S., becoming the 10th highest-grossing film of the year. Critics praised Howard's ability to combine comedy and emotion. Although Roger Ebert complained that John Candy should have been the lead instead of Hanks, the film was still a major success, and received an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay. This proved that Howard was not a flash-in-the-pan phenomenon, but a director capable of bringing something new to Hollywood. Just a year later, Howard continued challenging himself with a completely different genre in Cocoon, further confirming his versatility and cinematic storytelling acumen. Cocoon tells the story of elderly residents in a nursing home who discover extraterrestrial beings that help them regain youth. The film combined humor, sentiment, and groundbreaking visual effects, winning Academy Awards. Filmed in St. Petersburg, Florida, Cocoon featured veteran actors, including Donna Mitch, who won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. With over $85 million in box office earnings, the film became one of 1985's most popular releases, proving Howard's talent in balancing emotion, humor, and sci-fi elements. A few years later, Howard demonstrated his ability to turn real events into compelling films with Apollo 13. The film recounts NASA's 1970 moon mission, where astronauts Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes faced a life-threatening crisis after an oxygen tank exploded. The mission became a desperate struggle to return to Earth. Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and Bill Paxton played the astronauts, while Ed Harris and Gary Sinise portrayed mission control leaders, adding maximum realism. Howard collaborated closely with NASA, even filming scenes on the comet and aircraft, simulating brief zero-gravity moments, and showcasing meticulous attention to detail. Apollo 13 grossed over $35 million worldwide on a $52 million budget and received 9 Academy Award nominations, winning for Best Film Editing and Best Sound. A few years later, Howard continued exploring true stories with A Beautiful Mind. Released on December 21, 2001, the film tells the life of John Nash, a mathematical genius battling schizophrenia. Russell Crowe portrayed Nash authentically, depicting delusions and personal triumph, while Jennifer Connelly played his wife, bringing emotional depth. Howard used innovative storytelling techniques, revealing key details only when Nash himself realized them, immersing the audience in the character's mind. The film's emotional weight stemmed from the relationship between Nash and his wife, leading to Jennifer Connelly's Oscar win and 4 Oscars for the film, including Best Picture and Best Director. The film earned over $313 million worldwide on a $58 million budget, changing perceptions of schizophrenia while celebrating Nash's resilience and achievements. It demonstrated Howard's ability to transform real stories into deeply emotional cinematic experiences. Howard did not only excel in serious dramas, but also ventured into fantasy with How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Adapting Dr. Seuss's book into a live-action film was challenging, but with Jim Carrey as the Grinch, the film became a holiday hit. The makeup process took hours daily to turn Carrey into the Green Grinch, which Howard described as feeling buried alive. Yet, he maintained a fun atmosphere on set with a talented cast, sophisticated production, and a blend of humor and emotion. How the Grinch Stole Christmas reinforced Howard as a versatile director capable of succeeding in multiple genres. From sci-fi true event films and psychological dramas to fantasy for children, Howard consistently turned stories into compelling cinematic experiences, leaving an indelible mark on audiences. How the Grinch Stole Christmas was released on November 17, 2000, quickly becoming the highest-grossing holiday film at the time, earning $345 million worldwide on a $123 million budget. The film won the Academy Award for Best Makeup and received nominations for costume design and production design. In 2006, Howard directed The Da Vinci Code, based on Dan Brown's best-selling novel starring Tom Hanks as Robert Langdon, who uncovers the mystery of the Holy Grail and a secret religious organization. The film sparked immediate controversy. The Vatican condemned it. Religious groups called for boycotts, and debates arose over its portrayal of Christianity. However, this did not affect its earnings. The Da Vinci Code premiered in Canada on May 17, 2006, grossing $760 million worldwide on a $125 million budget. This was followed by 2 sequels, Angels and Demons 2009 and Inferno 2016, maintaining the blend of historical mystery and action audiences loved. Nevertheless, not all of Howard's projects were huge successes. 2 disappointing films were Inferno 2016 and a standalone Star Wars project in 2018, Inferno. 3 in the Robert Langdon series earned only $220 million against a $75 million budget due to declining audience, interest, and a confusing plot. Meanwhile, Solo, a Star Wars story, faced many backstage issues. Original directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were fired. Howard was brought in to finish the project. And although the final product received positive reviews, the film earned only $393 million, becoming the first unprofitable Star Wars installment. Despite these difficulties, Howard always maintained a professional attitude, took pride in his work, and avoided blaming others. Alongside these achievements, Ron also built a remarkable legacy in filmmaking. In November 1985, he co-founded Imagine Entertainment with Brian Grazer, one of Hollywood's most successful production companies, with over 50 hit films and television series such as Arrested Development, Friday Night Lights, and Empire. Imagine Entertainment also expanded into streaming platforms, producing content for Netflix, Disney+, and Apple TV+. The company was first publicly listed in 1986, but later returned to private ownership. The 1992 acquisition deal brought in billions of dollars in global revenue. Ron Howard has received numerous prestigious awards, including 2 Oscars for A Beautiful Mind and nominations for Apollo 13 and Frost Nixon, 6 Emmys, 2 Golden Globes, and a Grammy for The Beatles, 8 Days a Week. His films have grossed over $2 billion worldwide. He holds 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for television 1981 and film 2015. Under his leadership, Imagine Entertainment has garnered a total of 47 Oscar nominations and 2,117 Emmy nominations, while Ron himself received the National Medal of Arts in 2003, affirming his status as one of Hollywood's most respected filmmakers. In his personal life, Ron Howard enjoys a fulfilling life. Ron and Cheryl met in high school at John Burroughs High School in Burbank, California. Even as teenagers, they developed a special bond. Although Cheryl declined Ron's first proposal to focus on her studies, their relationship continued to grow strongly, and they married on June 7, 1975, when Ron was just 21 years old. From the beginning, Ron was certain about this decision and determined to build a happy family. Ron and Cheryl's life became richer when they became parents, having 4 children, including Bryce Dallas Howard, born in 1981, twins Paige and Jocelyn Carelli, Howard, born in 1985, and the youngest, Reed, born in 1987. Each child chose their own path, from acting and screenwriting to private life or sports careers, but all remained connected to the family. Bryce Dallas became the most famous, known for her role in Jurassic World, while Paige also pursued acting and screenwriting. Jocelyn chose a private life, staying away from Hollywood lights, and Reed followed a professional golf career while maintaining a voice on social media. Despite each child's different choices, Ron and Cheryl always wanted their children to have a normal childhood, free from the pressures of the entertainment industry. They did not encourage their kids to act at a young age, instead focusing on education and family stability. The Howard family often traveled together during filming, and when Cheryl was pregnant with Reed, they moved to London so Ron could work while being present for the birth. This reflected their belief that family must always come first. Even naming their children showed creativity and humor. Bryce Dallas is named after a city in Texas. Paige and Jocelyn Carelli are after the Carelli Hotel in Manhattan, and Reed is after a street near their home. Finally, Paige Carelli, Howard and Cheryl's daughter, recently spoke out, revealing that her parents' relationship was not always perfect, as everyone imagined. They even nearly divorced in the past, going through tense and challenging periods that few knew about. This makes many wonder, do you still admire this fairy tale love story as before? Do you love Ron and Cheryl, or are you impressed by any of his works? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you find this story interesting and want to follow more authentic perspectives on the lives and families of stars, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss the latest videos. Thank you for watching and exploring the secrets behind Hollywood's glamour.